Greetings, everyone. I'm Larry Williams, the Director of CARMA, the Consortium for the Advancement of Research Methods and Analysis. And it's my pleasure to be with you on this Valentine's Day, February 14, 2019, for another version of Meet the Methodologist. You may know about CARMA. We have our premier program is one in which we invite over the course of a year 10 distinguished methodologists to come to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, the current home of CARMA, and to give a webcast lecture that goes out to all of our 100-plus member schools that join the program. And it's my pleasure to have with us today one of our webcast presenters for next week, Dan Putka. Dan received his PhD from Ohio University and is now Principal Staff Scientist at HUMRO, the Human Resource Research Organization. Amongst his many accomplishments, Dan is a fellow of 3 divisions of the American Psychological Association, including IO and the Quantitative Division. You may know Dan for his work in big data methods, modern prediction methods, and methods issues in assessment center research. Those are kind of the big areas that Dan works in. And next Friday for his lecture, he's going to be talking about modern prediction methods. And so what we like to do with the Meet the Methodologist is just give our presenters the opportunity to talk about their interests and career issues and things that they feel passionate about. So first of all, Dan, welcome to CARMA. It's a real honor to have you participating in our program this year.
Thank you.
So Dan, I mentioned you got your PhD in IO psychology at Ohio University. How did you end up there doing that?
Sure, absolutely. So when I was coming out of undergrad, I went to Miami University as an undergrad, and I, like many others, I think in IO, had taken a survey of IO class as an undergrad and became, interested in what I saw and heard, and started to look into IO programs. Also, as an undergrad, I started taking a keen interest in statistics. So I had a number of stats courses as an undergrad. So going into grad school, I was looking for a program that would provide a good mix of IO and kind of quant, and that's what I found in OU.
Were you always, like in high school, interested in the math stuff, and that led you to take the courses, or did that kind of emerge later on?
It kind of emerged later on. I was sort of a late bloomer with regard to my math skills. So in high school, I actually had some trouble with math. But as I matured through college, things got a little bit easier for me.
Well, that's good. You know, I've moved around a lot, and somewhat surprisingly, I've lost a lot of things, but I've been able to keep my 3rd grade school assessment scores. And I did very well in applied math then, although I didn't really come out of my, and it was reflected in my work, my school work. But, you know, I was like 50% below on spelling, and I'm not at all sure that I've done any better than that, even with all of my education. So then you went from Ohio, and you mentioned doing an internship, and then you get started at HUMRO. And I'm just curious as to whether there was any part of your career and the things that you started doing when you took on your employment that you thought your graduate program did not prepare you well for.
Not really. It was interesting. OU's program was fairly unique, at least I think the experience I had, in that I wound up taking probably more quant courses than I did IO. So I took quite a number of courses over in the stats grad school at Ohio University. And they prepared me for a lot of the more quantitatively oriented tasks I had to take on, both at my internship and at HUMRO. But one thing that I would say I don't want to say I wasn't prepared for, but that surprised me, was just how many methodological issues there were that were arising in practice that didn't really have clear answers in published literature to that time. So what it enabled me to do is see a lot of gaps that not only exist in the literature, but also that exist in practice that we don't really have well addressed yet.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, another thing that interests me is that students, we try to give them in our doctoral training the kind of coursework and experiences that will prepare them for their career, but yet, it takes a lot of different experiences to shape and grow and develop as a researcher. Right. So I'm just wondering if you kind of reflect now on the approach that you take as a scholar and as a researcher. Can you look back and see ways that you changed and evolved as you gained more experience? How are you different today? If you are approaching a research project today, how would you say you look at it differently now than you would have coming fresh out of school?
Right. Well, I think coming out of school, we know what we know. So we tend to frame problems as we've learned to frame them through our classes and through our exposure to, the faculty members that we've worked with. Once you've been in practice for a number of years, you not only bring that knowledge into the situation, but also kind of lessons learned from the variety of clients you've worked with, the variety of projects you've worked on, and kind of learning to deal with some of the complexities of, say, real data that you may not get exposed to during graduate training. So I think the fundamental thing that's changed in terms of how I approach kind of practical problems down, research problems, is really just having more of a base of experience to operate on, having seen things and been exposed to things that, again, don't necessarily have clear solutions in the literature. So experience is really one of the best ways to kind of gain insights into those.
Yeah. And so in that time since graduate school, you've gotten, I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about your different projects in a minute, but you've gotten involved with some different types of categories of analysis and methods topics. But I'm wondering, whether there's something right now, a topical area that you wish that you could learn more about, right? Because you get stuck working in these areas and we learn a little bit and hear about other things. Like if you could take a week off to go study some methodological topic, what would it be?
Right. Well, one of the things I'm interested in right now, and which my research is characterized by, is applications of natural language processing in IO psychology and management. And one of the areas in that domain that I haven't gotten into that I'd like to get more into is use of algorithms basically to generate text. So we've seen some of this work already done with respect to generating, say, cognitive ability items. So being able to, say, mass produce items for use on alternate forms of assessments. But there's a lot of potential there for doing a lot of creative things with text generation that I think we haven't even scratched the surface on as a field yet. So basically leveraging NLP to generate text for various purposes.
Yeah. Okay, I mentioned I'm going to ask you about some of your research interests, but I just got a personal question that I like to stick here in the middle, and that is there something that's personal about yourself, right, that most of your work colleagues don't know about? They might say, Dan does that? He can do that? And they'd be, is there something like that?
Well, I've been around Humbrel long enough now that the younger generation may not know this about me and be surprised. I was actually a Division I college athlete when I was in undergrad, running both cross country and track for Miami
At
University.
Miami.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, that's interesting. So do you still run?
Not
Or
really.
does it just burn you out?
It's aspirational now. I've been having injury problems for several years now, so not running as much as I'd like to anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah. So as I was looking into getting some more information on your background, you've got several types of projects that are going on. Before I'll ask at the end for you to tell us about your webcast lecture, but just generally tell us about some of the projects that you're involved with and the types of methods issues that you face in those.
Sure, absolutely. So early on in my career, a lot of work was focused on reliability, generalizability theory, and applications to different research domains in IO and management in which we use ratings. You had mentioned assessment center work, certainly a lot of work with job performance ratings and reliability issues. Over probably about the past 4 to 5 years, though, I've gravitated more into the machine learning space. So I'll talk a little bit about my lecture later on. It is going to involve machine learning, but most recently, I've gravitated into natural language processing applications. And so a lot of my side research right now is focused on applications of NLP to job analysis. So basically taking unstructured text and using that in combination with machine learning and natural language processing to create basically structured job data. So certainly there's examples in our field of applying NLP to assessments. A common popular example is using Facebook or Twitter to make inferences about someone's personality or other characteristics. But not so much has been done on the NLP and job side. So basically leveraging NLP to describe work environments and jobs. And that's kind of what I've been focused on for the past couple of years.
Okay. And so then give us an overview of what you're going to be talking about next Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, for about past 4 or 5 years, I've been keenly interested in machine learning and its applications to IO psychology and management. So the talk I'm going to give is really about what advances have taken place, say, over about the past 25 years in the areas of computer science, statistics, engineering, with respect to modern approaches to prediction. So for the past half century, we've more or less used very similar methods for prediction. So variations on ordinary least squares regression, logistic regression. But there are now a lot of alternatives to that could really have value for a lot of different domains in IO psychology and management. And so my talk is going to be focused on providing kind of a schema for understanding those developments and how they may be of value in various forms of research we do.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, we know that people at your level of accomplishments have a lot of opportunities and ways to spend their time, and we're very thankful that you'll be joining, making the trip to the Midwest in Lincoln, Nebraska next Friday, and hopefully the weather will cooperate. It was great chatting with you, and we'll very much look forward to your talk next Friday. Thank you, Dan Putka.
All right. Thank you very much. Take care.